General Hospital spoilers raise the question of whether Drew Kane should have been killed off. Many fans feel betrayed after the fatal fake-out, so let's discuss the benefits and drawbacks of keeping Drew alive. Drew has been the most detested guy in Port Charles for months, and he is also the most despised GH character on social media. Many spectators cheered as Drew took 2 bullets to the back, rooting for his death. Drew's behavior has deteriorated to the point where most of us would have held a party to commemorate his unfortunate demise. The prospect of Drew being gone for good has a lot of appeal at this point, so it's understandable that some fans were angry that Drew survived his ordeal. Tracy Quartermaine discovered Drew in time to contact 911 and transport him to the hospital. Drew also survived surgery, so he'll continue to play an important role in the storyline. Of course, this is bad news for viewers who had hoped to get rid of Drew for good. The show is still doing a whodunit, but it could have been more impactful if Drew had been murdered off for this storyline. Fans have taken to social media to complain that Drew will be around to cause even more chaos. We understand why some viewers would consider Drew's survival as a disappointment, given how tired they are of him by now. However, there are certain benefits to keeping Drew alive. Scout Quartermaine has already lost one parent, Sam McCall, who died last year, so losing her father would be terrible, especially so soon after her mother's death. Plus, matter how despised Drew has gotten, he still delivers some delicious drama. Despite Drew's protests, many people are still eager to see what happens next, so keeping him alive may not be as horrible after all. According to General Hospital spoilers, this Drew mystery will cause even more strife and mayhem in the coming months, so stay tuned for updates on all the highs and lows. CDL will have more great General Hospital spoilers, updates, and news for you, so check back frequently. According to General Hospital teasers, fans may have predicted it, and Drew Kane will be shot between September 1st and 5th. Anna Devane and Dante Falconeri will initiate an investigation. Who will be their primary suspects? It's time to dig in. Drew has been blackmailing Portia Robinson for quite some time. While Portia alternates between heroine and baddie in plots, she's undoubtedly at the top of the list of suspects who would not only have a reason, but also the courage to pull off anything like this. Curtis Ashford, Portia's now estranged husband, was pulled into the drama, but he's far too nice to ever be regarded a legitimate suspect, despite Drew's recent attempt to retaliate against him through his Aunt Stella Henry. Nina Reeves is not a killer. Nonetheless, she is a fiercely protective mommy bear who will do anything to protect her daughter. Drew appears to be on the verge of reconnecting with Willow Tate, therefore Nina may be motivated to take extraordinary measures to prevent this. Willow Tate is a psychologically unstable person. While she appears to believe Drew is the answer to reuniting with her children, she may have a major meltdown if she discovers he is attempting to pull another fast one on her. Willow is not a killer. Yet fans would never have expected her to stalk an innocent baby, but she did. Sonny Corinthos is a murderer and a likely suspect. He shot John Jagger, Kate's point blank near the Quartermaine mansion without blinking an eye. He's also one of many who have spoken out about Drew getting his just desserts, so if the mafia boss discovers that Drew has threatened anyone he cares about, he'll undoubtedly be motivated to take matters into his own hands. Drew has long been a source of frustration for Michael Corinthos. If Michael suspects Drew is plotting to kidnap his children or has duped Willow into a reunion, he may also take action. Michael gets tired of the ruthless congressman's antics, so may he be the one to shoot Drew? Having said that, these are only the top 5 suspects. More will emerge in the coming weeks as information becomes available, including Carly Spencer, Alexis Davis, Tracy Quartermaine, Jen Sidwell, Martin Gray, and more from the small town. Who do you think will shoot Drew? Share your ideas. Tune in to the ABC soap and visit this website frequently for the most recent General Hospital updates, spoilers, and news. Emily has always been a quiet soul, blending into the background. Growing up in a tiny town where everyone knew everyone else's business, she learned early on to keep her emotions hidden. Her mother had always been the noisy one, dominating attention with her keen wit and louder laughter, but her father was a quiet guy who chose his books over conversation. Emily, stuck in the midst, sought refuge in stories. As a child, she used to curl up with novels, losing herself in worlds where heroes triumphed and criminals were punished. In her teens, she discovered General Hospital and felt as if she had found a new home. The show's complex web of relationships, betrayals and redemption spoke to her in a way that nothing else did. It was more than just entertainment. It was a lifeline. Drew Kane had been one of her favorites. He was far from flawless, yet it was what made him genuine to her. His hardships, losses, and quiet strength paralleled the conflicts she had battled in her own life, albeit less flashy. She'd watched him negotiate the insanity of Port Charles, from his broken past to his confusing love life, and she'd supported him every step of the way. Emily prepared herself as the show hinted at his demise. She understood how soap operas worked. Characters came and departed, and sometimes the ones you loved the most paid the ultimate price. However, she was unprepared for the gut punch of a fake out. The program had led up to a moment so strong and final that she sat paralyzed on her couch, tears flowing down her cheeks as she witnessed Drew's alleged death. But it wasn't real. The show abruptly revealed that he was still alive, and while some may have sighed with relief, Emily felt robbed. She unlocked her apartment door and stepped inside, the silence surrounding her like a heavy blanket. The living room was small and chaotic, with second-hand furniture and heaps of books she hadn't read in months. The television sat in the corner, its screen darkened but yet looming like a silent accuser. She placed her bag on the floor and collapsed onto the couch, staring at the empty space where she'd spent so many evenings in Port Charles. Why did it ache so badly? It was only a show after all. Just a story. But for Emily it was more than that. It was a world in which she could feel without being judged, where she could invest in individuals who did not know her and had no expectations of her. And now the world had let her down. She recalled the internet forums she frequented, where fans like her met to discuss every narrative twist and character evolution. The General Hospital community was large, a wide network of fans who grasped the show's appeal. After the program aired, the forums were flooded with reactions. Some fans were enraged, calling the fake out a cheap ploy to play with their emotions. Others defended the writers, believing that keeping Drew alive was preferable to losing him entirely. Emily wasn't sure where she stood. Part of her was pleased he wasn't gone, but it was swamped by a more profound sense of betrayal. The show had deceived her, dangling the prospect of loss then yanking it away with no real consequences. It seemed like a lie, and Emily had had enough of them in her life. Her employment at the local library was solid but unfulfilling, where she shelved books and answered queries with a grin she didn't always have. Her coworkers were nice enough, but they didn't know her very well. She had never been good at opening up, letting others see the parts of herself that hurt. General Hospital was distinct. It was a place where she could experience the whole range of emotions, love, hatred, and grief, without having to explain them. Drew's life was on the line, and she felt the weight of it, as if his fate was linked to hers. The show had made her care, convinced her that the stakes were genuine, just to rip the rug out from under her. It was no longer simply about Drew, it was about trust. Emily's life wasn't always so solitary. She once had friends, even a lover, who made her laugh and dream of a future outside of her small town. His name was Michael, and he used to be everything to her. They'd met in college, bonding over late-night coffee runs and shared music playlists. He was charismatic with a smile that could light up a room, and he made her feel seen in ways she hadn't before. However, life had a way of unraveling things. Michael's goals led him to a larger city, where opportunities shone like stars, and Emily was unable to follow. She wasn't ready to leave the comforts of her routine, community, and performance. They attempted to make it work, but distance and time wore them down. When he stopped phoning, she did not pursue him. She let him go, just as she had let go of many other things in her life. The ache of that loss persisted, a subtle hum beneath her daily existence. General Hospital had been there for her through it all, providing a constant when everything else seemed uncertain. Drew's persona, in particular, struck a chord with her during the lonely months following Michael's departure. Drew was a man who had lost everything. His identity, his family, his sense of self, but he kept going. Emily respected and even envied her resilience. She'd seen him struggle for his position in the world, and it gave her a strange sense of optimism, a confidence that one day she may discover her own power. The fake-out, however, changed all that. It made her wonder if the show's authors cared as much about the characters as she did, and if they realized the significance of the story they were presenting. She sat her laptop on her lap and opened the fan forum again, browsing through the posts. The outrage was apparent, with each comment echoing the same sentiment. Why did they do this? Why did we think he was gone? One user, Port Charles Forever, published a lengthy thread on how the fake-out cheapened Drew's arc, making his hardship seem like a gimmick. Emily nodded while reading, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She wanted to add her own ideas, to express the frustration and despair she had been feeling since the episode finished, but the words would not come. How could she express how deeply this betrayal wounded? As if she had lost a piece of herself. Instead, she shut down the laptop and laid back, staring at the ceiling. The place was too silent, amplifying every idea and doubt. She thought about her mother, who died a few years earlier, leaving a vacuum that Emily still couldn't fill. Her mother had also enjoyed General Hospital, though she was more loud about it, shouting at the TV when a character made a stupid decision or crying openly during a touching episode. Emily inherited her enjoyment of the show but not her candor. She kept her emotions hidden, only letting them out in the privacy of her living room. The fake-out felt like a breach of that safety. It wasn't only Drew. It was the faith she put in the performance, the idea that it would honor her investment. She devoted hours of her life to these characters and stories, expecting nothing less than honesty in return. Not real-world honesty perhaps, but the emotional truth that made fiction meaningful. When the show foreshadowed Drew's death, it expected her to experience something profound, to mourn for a character she had grown to care about. And then it turned that pain into a story mechanism to keep viewers interested. Emily did not want to get hooked. She desired to experience something real. She stood and headed into the kitchen, filling a kettle with water and placing it on the stove. Making tea was a familiar routine that provided a sense of stability in an increasingly uncertain environment. As the water began to simmer, she considered the other followers, who were shouting online or perhaps sitting in their own apartments, experiencing the same betrayal as she felt. They were strangers, but they were united by a common disappointment, a sense that something precious had been tainted. She wondered if they too went to General Hospital seeking an escape, comfort, and a place to feel safe. The kettle whistled and she poured boiling water over a tea bag, watching the steam curl up. She returned the mug to the couch and sat, holding it in her hands. The warmth was comforting, but it couldn't cover the void within her. She thought about Drew again, recalling the moment she thought he was gone. Her heart had raced, her throat had clenched, and for a little moment, she felt the weight of loss all over again. It was the same agony she'd felt when Michael left. Her mother died, and she realized her life wasn't going as planned. The performance had dug into her pain, making her experience it completely, only to reveal it was all a ruse. Emily sipped her tea, the bitterness of the leaves reflecting her emotions. She was unsure if she could stay watching after this. General Hospital had been her constant, her secure haven, but suddenly it felt unfamiliar. She recalled the other characters she adored. Carly with her passionate loyalty, Jason with his quiet intensity, and Sam with her confused heart. Will they be next? Would the program also play with their fates, teasing disaster only to draw it back for shock value? The notion made her exhausted, like if the weight of her disappointment was too much to bear. She laid the mug down and took up her phone, browsing back through the thread. A fresh post caught her eye, this one from a user named SoapFan92. It was a long, poignant comment explaining why the fake-out hurt so much, how it wasn't only about Drew, but also about the fans' love with the show. The user wrote, "They don't get it. They don't get what this show means to us." Emily's eyes sting as she read the lines, which echoed her own sentiments. She texted back, her fingers trembling. "I feel the same way. It's as though they breached a commitment." She pressed send and leaned back, shutting her eyes. The apartment remained quiet, but it seemed less oppressive. She wasn't alone in her disappointment, and knowing that provided some consolation. Perhaps she'd remain watching, just to see where the narrative went next. Perhaps she'd find a way to forgive the show and trust it again. Or maybe she won't. For the time being, she allowed herself to be sad, letting it wash over her like a wave. It wasn't just about Drew, General Hospital, or the fake-out. It was about the fragility of hope, how it might be built up and shattered in an instant. Emily had spent her entire life defending and clutching onto that hope, and tonight it felt a little more battered than before. The night passed and Emily remained on the couch, the TV still black and the tea going cold. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring. Another episode, another twist, another opportunity to experience. But for the time being, she allowed herself to grieve, not just for Drew, but also for the trust she'd lost, the stories she believed in, and the bits of herself she'd given to a world that didn't always reciprocate. Drew Kane's shooting sent shockwaves across Port Charles, triggering a chain reaction of instability, secrets, and betrayals that no one anticipated. The incident was more than just an act of violence. It served as the catalyst for the unraveling of deep-seated grudges, secret goals, and hazardous connections that had been simmering for months. The night before the shooting was already heated, with rivalries growing, loyalties shifting, and secrets on the verge of disclosure. Drew had been on a personal quest to confront several people he believed had harmed him, and now that he is fighting for his life, 5 crucial figures are being investigated, each with their own motive, opportunity, and frightening secret to hide. It all began with an unforeseen incident at the Metro courthouse. Drew had been spotted arguing with someone just before the incident, his voice high and look furious. There were few witnesses, but one thing was certain. Whatever was said left Drew disturbed and enraged. Minutes later, gunshots rang out in a neighboring alley, and Drew was found injured and barely awake. The first responders transported him to General Hospital, where his condition is severe, but the bigger mystery remains. Who wanted him dead so badly that they pulled the trigger? Nina Reeves, who has a complicated relationship with Drew, is the second character on the detective's radar. Nina has always been willing to go to any length to protect herself, and the recent tensions over Crimson's ownership have taken a personal turn. Drew had made it clear that he intended to seize leadership of Crimson from Nina and work with Michael Corinthos to force her out. Nina had worked tirelessly to rehabilitate her reputation and finally achieve stability, so this was an awful betrayal. Nina was spotted near the Metro Court balcony just minutes before Drew was attacked. When questioned, she claimed she was taking a phone call, but police are doubtful because security footage shows her closer to the alley than she claims. Nina's volcanic temper and propensity of concealing deadly secrets make her a prime suspect, even though her outer attitude suggests innocence. Then there's Valentine Cassadine, whose involvement in dubious business has never been concealed. Valentine has always flourished in the shadows, and his name is frequently spoken when secrets and power struggles are at play. According to sources, Drew recently discovered information linking Valentine to a secret weapons operation going through Port Charles under the radar. If Drew intended to expose him, Valentine would have every incentive to quiet him permanently. While Valentine has denied any involvement in the shooting, his ties to the Cassadine legacy, connections to underworld people, and unparalleled ability to influence events cannot be ignored. His cool, composed demeanor in the aftermath just adds to suspicion. A man like Valentine does not panic unless he is guilty or passionately invested.